He, a skeptical millionaire, plans to surprise his housekeeper with a luxury trip, a guise to see her. She, now Jackie, dances happily. He sees her with others, and jealousy consumes him, revealing his love. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The alarm clock blared at 5 a.m. like it did every day. Jackie Reynolds opened her eyes in the small room at the back of the mansion, where the peeling paint on the walls was a stark contrast to the luxury she cleaned daily. At 28, she carried the weight of supporting her family back in Kentucky, her ailing mother, her younger brother trying to finish school, and the bills that never stopped coming. She rose silently, as always, so as not to wake Connie, the elderly housekeeper who shared the room with her. Her hands, calloused from hard work, automatically reached for the grey uniform hanging on the chair. Another day at the Castellani mansion, another day being invisible. Jackie had learned early on that people like her were born to serve. It wasn't bitterness, it was acceptance. Her mom, Marlene, always said, "Honey, honest work doesn't dishonor anyone. You do your part with dignity, and God sees it." And that's how she lived, with quiet dignity, even when some of the other staff whispered about her natural beauty, about how it was a waste for a girl like her to hide behind baggy uniforms and always wear her hair up. Descending to the kitchen, she found Connie already preparing Mr. Enzo's coffee. The 60-year-old woman looked at her with motherly affection. "Today's gonna be a different day, sweetheart," the housekeeper said, stirring sugar into the fine china cup. "The boss is gonna be home all day." "Important meetings in the study," Jackie nodded. Enzo Castellani was an almost mythical figure to her, the owner of it all, the man who appeared in business magazines, the CEO who commanded a chain of luxury hotels scattered around the world. In 3 years working there, their interactions had been minimal. An occasional good morning when they passed in the hallways, a nod of the head when she quickly stepped out of his way. He was different from the arrogant rich people she'd met before. He didn't yell at the staff. He didn't make absurd demands. He was polite but distant, very distant, as if he lived in a parallel dimension where feelings were luxuries he couldn't afford. On the 40th floor of the commercial building that bore his name, Enzo Castellani adjusted the knot of his Italian tie in front of the mirror in the executive washroom. 40 years old, billions in the bank, international recognition, and a loneliness that consumed him from the inside out like acid. He had built an empire after Alessandra, his ex-fiancée, left him for another man 5 years ago. "You're too cold, Enzo," were her last words. "Everything about you is calculated, strategic. Where are your emotions? Where's the man who falls in love?" Since then, he had opted for absolute control. Relationships were contracts. Women were temporary companions for social events. The heart was an organ that pumped blood, nothing more. It worked perfectly until he met Jackie. He didn't know exactly when he started noticing her. Maybe it was the day he saw her tending the garden, talking quietly to the roses as if they were dear friends. Or when he caught her dancing alone in the living room while cleaning, moving with a natural grace that contrasted with the rigidity of his world. Jackie was everything he wasn't, spontaneous, genuine, alive. She smiled at the birds that came to the window, left encouraging notes for the other staff, and radiated a light he couldn't define. It was like watching someone who still believed in the goodness of the world, and it fascinated and disturbed him at the same time. In recent months, he had found himself creating excuses to work more from home, just to see her in the hallways. He knew her routine. At 6 in the morning, she cleaned the living room. At 8, she organized the study. At 10, she tended the flowers. It was pathetic, but he couldn't stop. Enzo knew he was treading on dangerous ground. Jackie was his employee, dependent on him for survival. Any false move could ruin her life. But what he felt wasn't just physical attraction. It was something deeper, scarier. It was as if she held the key to a part of him that he had locked away years ago. It was a rainy Thursday in March when chance forced the first real encounter between them. Jackie was climbing the stairs with a tray of afternoon coffee for the study, where Enzo was working with his lawyers, reviewing international contracts. The dark, varnished wood was slippery because of the humidity, and her worn shoes didn't offer the necessary grip. It happened in a second. Her left foot slipped on the step, the tray flew from her hands, and she braced herself for a painful fall. But firm arms caught her by the waist, preventing her from tumbling down the stairs. When she opened her eyes, she was pressed against Enzo Castellani's chest. She could smell his masculine cologne, expensive and discreet. She could hear his heartbeat racing like her own. His eyes, an almost golden brown, studied her with an intensity that made her blush. "Are you all right?" he asked, and his voice had a softness she had never heard before. Jackie tried to pull away, but her legs were still trembling. I'm so sorry, Mr. Castellani. The tray, the coffee. I'll clean it all up right away." "Forget the tray," he said, still holding her. "You could have been seriously hurt." It was then that she really looked at him for the first time. Not the distant boss, not the unattainable millionaire, but a man who held her as if she were something precious. There was something in his eyes that she couldn't decipher, a vulnerability that didn't match his public image. "Thank you for catching me," she whispered. Enzo realized he still had her in his arms and reluctantly released her, but he didn't move away. "What's your name?" "Your full name?" "Jackie. Jackie Reynolds." "Jackie," he repeated, as if tasting the sound. "A beautiful name." The moment was broken by the arrival of Connie, who rushed up the stairs upon hearing the crash of the tray falling. "Good heavens, what happened here?" "A small accident," Enzo explained, immediately returning to his formal posture. "See that someone cleans this up. And Jackie," he paused, looking directly into her eyes, "come to my study in an hour. We need to talk." Jackie felt her stomach sink. She was certainly going to be fired. 3 years of honest work lost because of a foolish fall. How would she explain it to her family? How would she pay for her mother's treatment? But there was something in Enzo's gaze that didn't look like anger. It was something much more dangerous, much more unsettling. It was interest. And that would change everything. An hour later, Jackie knocked on the study door, her knuckles trembling. She had changed out of the stained uniform into a clean one, tied her hair back more carefully, and tried to hide her nervousness behind an erect posture. Connie had tried to reassure her, saying that Mr. Castellani wasn't the kind of man to fire employees for accidents, but Jackie couldn't forget the intensity of his gaze. "Come in," came the deep voice from the other side of the door. The study was Enzo's sanctuary. Walls covered in rare books, a crystal bar in the corner, Italian leather armchairs, and a mahogany desk that cost more than her entire house in Kentucky. He was standing in front of the window, watching the rain fall over Manhattan, his hands clasped behind his back. "Have a seat," he said, without turning around. Jackie chose the chair farthest from the desk, maintaining her formal posture. "Mr. Castellani, about what happened. I take full responsibility. I know it was careless of me." "How old are you?" he interrupted, finally turning to face her. The question caught her off guard. 28, sir." "And how long have you worked here?" 3 years. Enzo approached slowly like a predator studying his prey. Jackie felt each step echo in the silence of the room. "In 3 years, you've never missed a day, never been late. Connie tells me you work harder than you need to, help the other staff, and have never complained about the salary, even when you learned that others in similar positions earn more." She didn't know where this was going. I'm grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Castellani. I have no reason to complain." "Why not?" He stopped in front of her, forcing her to look up. Why does an intelligent, beautiful woman settle for being invisible? Jackie's heart raced. Beautiful? He had said she was beautiful? "I don't see myself that way, sir. I just do my job." That's precisely the problem. Enzo stepped away, pouring himself a Scotch whiskey. "You hide yourself. Why?" The intimate question disarmed her. "People like me are born to work, Mr. Castellani, not to dream too big. People like you?" He took a sip, his eyes never leaving her face. "You mean poor people?" Jackie stiffened. With all due respect, sir, you have no idea what my reality is. Then tell me. For a moment she hesitated, but there was something in his voice, a genuine curiosity that made her lower her defenses. My mom is sick. She needs expensive medicine, treatments that Medicare doesn't fully cover. My younger brother is in his senior year of high school, dreams of going to college. I've cousins who sometimes need help. The money I earn here supports 6 people back in Kentucky. Enzo absorbed every word. And you? What does Jackie want for herself? The question hit her like a punch. No one had ever asked that. It doesn't matter what I want. It matters to me. The silence that followed was charged with electricity. Jackie felt something shifting in the air between them, a tension she couldn't name. Enzo looked at her in a way that made her feel exposed, as if he saw through the layers of protection she had built. Why are you asking me this? She whispered. Enzo placed the glass on the table with more force than necessary. Because in 3 years of watching you, I've realized that you're the only real person in this house. The only one who wants nothing from me except the opportunity to work honestly. You watch me? The question came out before she could censor herself. Enzo chuckled softly, a humorless sound. More than I should. He approached again, and this time Jackie couldn't avoid the masculine cologne, his magnetic presence. You intrigue me, Jackie. Your quiet strength, your dignity even when no one is watching. You take care of the flowers as if they were daughters. Smile at the birds, leave encouraging notes for the other staff. It's as if you bring life to this dead house. Jackie stood up abruptly, frightened by the intimacy of the confession. Mr. Castellani, I don't think I should be hearing this. Why not? He blocked her path to the door. Because I'm your boss? Because I'm rich and you're poor? Because society says people like us shouldn't connect? Exactly because of that. She blurted out, surprising them both with the intensity. You live in a world where you can have everything you want. I live in a world where I know my place. This conversation. What's happening can only end badly for me. Enzo was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was lower, more dangerous. What if I said I didn't care what society thinks? I'd say you haven't thought about the consequences. Jackie took a deep breath, regaining her composure. Can I get back to work, Mr. Castellani? For a moment, she thought he was going to stop her. But then Enzo stepped aside, returning behind the desk. Of course. But before, he opened a drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. This is for you. Jackie looked at the envelope suspiciously. What is it? A gift? Or rather, recognition for your exemplary work. She didn't move to take it. What kind of recognition? A week at the Castellani Resort in the Hamptons. All expenses paid. An opportunity to rest, to have fun, to see what it's like to live without worrying about anything for a few days. Jackie stared at him as if he had gone crazy. Mr. Castellani, I can't accept this. Why not? Because, she searched for the words, because people like me don't go to luxury resorts. Because I don't have appropriate clothes. Because I don't know how to behave in that environment. Because you're afraid to discover that you deserve something better than hiding in the background. The remark hit her squarely. Enzo continued, his voice gaining persuasion. 1 week, Jackie. 1 week to discover who you are when you're not taking care of everyone. When you're not making yourself invisible. Consider it an experiment. And what would be the purpose of this experiment? His eyes gleamed with something she couldn't identify. To find out if my suspicions about you are correct. What suspicions? That behind this facade of humility, there's an extraordinary woman dying to get out. Jackie felt the ground slipping beneath her feet. There was something in his voice, in the way he looked at her, that suggested that this gift wasn't just generosity. It was something more personal, more dangerous. I need to think, she said finally. You have until tomorrow to decide. The plane leaves Friday morning. Enzo turned back to look out the window. One last thing, Jackie. I'll be at the resort the same week. Business commitments. I hope this doesn't make you back out. Her heart skipped a beat. Will you be there? Would that be a problem? Jackie studied him for a long moment. There was something he wasn't saying, a hidden agenda behind those golden eyes. But there was also a vulnerability there, a lonely man, offering something that perhaps he himself didn't fully understand. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Maybe it's the biggest problem of my life." And she left the study without taking the envelope, leaving Enzo alone with his thoughts and with the certainty that he had set in motion something he couldn't control. Jackie spent the whole night staring at the envelope on the dresser. Connie had tried to convince her, saying that it was a unique opportunity, that she deserved to rest after years of sacrificing herself for her family. But what terrified her most wasn't the luxury of the resort. It was the prospect of spending a week in the same place as Enzo Castellani. The next morning, she knocked on the study door again. He was on the phone, gesturing as he spoke fluent English with someone in London. When he saw her, he ended the call quickly. "Decided?" he asked, as if he hadn't slept thinking about her answer. "I'll accept," Jackie said, "but with conditions." Enzo raised an eyebrow. "Conditions? This changes nothing between us. When we get back, I'm still your employee, and you're still my boss. Nothing more." "Of course," he agreed too quickly. "Nothing more." But they both knew he was lying. The Castellani resort in the Hamptons was a paradise that seemed to have sprung from the pages of a magazine. Wood and glass bungalows were scattered across a beachfront property, connected by flower-lined paths. Jackie remained silent in the car that picked her up at the airport, watching through the window a world she had never imagined belonging to. Her bungalow was bigger than her family's house in Kentucky. It had a private balcony with a hammock, a hot tub in the suite, and a closet full of clothes in her size. Silk dresses, designer bikinis, shoes that cost more than her monthly salary. A card attached read, "So you can be who you truly are. EC." On the first night, she had dinner in her room, too intimidated to appear in the main restaurant. But on the second, curiosity and an impulse she couldn't explain led her to choose a simple navy blue dress and go down to the beach bar. The place was bustling with sophisticated guests, business people, discreet celebrities, European socialites. Jackie sat in a corner, ordered a drink she didn't know how to pronounce properly, and observed a world she had never belonged to. "May I join you?" She turned and found Enzo standing beside the table. Not the formal boss in a dark suit, but a man in an open-necked white shirt, his hair slightly tousled by the sea breeze. He seemed younger, less controlled. "It's a free country," she replied, trying to sound casual. He sat down, ordered a whiskey, and they were silent for a few moments, listening to the waves crashing on the beach. "How's it going?" he asked finally. "Surreal." Jackie took a sip of her drink. "I feel like I'm playing a role in a play." "And what role would that be?" "A woman who belongs in this world." Enzo studied her. "Maybe you belong more than you think." "I doubt it." She laughed softly. "The bartender looked at me like I was an alien when I ordered the drink. I clearly wasn't born for this." "Born for what?" Enzo leaned forward. "You speak well. Carry yourself with natural elegance. You're educated." "Where does all that come from?" Jackie stiffened imperceptibly. "What are you talking about?" "Connie told me that you help her son with English, that you correct the grammar of the other employees, that she sometimes finds you reading books from my study." His eyes narrowed. "Who are you really, Jackie?" For a moment she considered lying, but the drink, the environment, and something in his voice disarmed her. "I used to be different." "How so?" Jackie took a deep breath. "I did 2 years of English literature at UK. I had a full scholarship, excellent grades. I wanted to be a teacher, maybe a writer." She stopped, as if the words hurt. "I dreamed of writing books, of traveling the world teaching English to foreigners." "What happened?" "My mom got sick in the middle of my junior year. Cancer. She needed urgent surgery, expensive treatments that Medicare didn't fully cover." Jackie twisted the simple ring on her pinky finger. "I dropped out of college to work. Temporarily, I thought. That was 6 years ago." Enzo absorbed the information in silence. It explained so much. The erect posture, the careful vocabulary, the way she organized the books in the study by author and not just by size. "Why didn't you ever go back to school?" "Because real life doesn't wait for our dreams." Jackie stared at him. "When you have 6 people depending on your salary, There's no room for luxuries like a college education. Education isn't a luxury. It is when you have to choose between a diploma and medicine for your mom. Enzo was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice had a softness she had never heard. You sacrificed yourself for your family. It's admirable. It's not admirable. It's necessary. Jackie finished her drink in one gulp. But sometimes, on nights like this, I wonder who I would be if I had made different choices. And who would you be? She smiled, and for the first time he saw a glimpse of the woman she had been, confident, dreamy, alive. Maybe a teacher who wrote in her spare time. Maybe someone who traveled the world collecting stories. Maybe she stopped, blushing. Maybe what? Maybe someone brave enough to sit at the resort owner's table and not feel like an imposter. Enzo reached across the table, covering her hand with his. The touch was electric. You're not an imposter, Jackie. You're the most real person I've ever met. Don't say that. She tried to pull her hand away, but he held it firmly. Why not? Because it makes me remember dreams I can't have. What if I said you could have any dream you wanted? Her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Then I'd say you don't understand how the world works for people like me. Maybe it's time to show you how the world can work differently. At that moment, with his hand over hers, the sound of the sea in the background and the stars reflecting in the water, Jackie felt something inside her break. A barrier she had carefully built to protect her heart from the impossibilities of life. Mr. Enzo, she began. Enzo, just Enzo. Enzo, she corrected, and the name sounded too intimate on her tongue. What's happening between us? He intertwined his fingers with hers, and her response was almost a whisper. Something that should probably scare me more than it does. And why doesn't it scare you? Because for the first time in 5 years, I feel alive. The confession hung between them, heavy with implications. Jackie looked at their intertwined hands, hers calloused from work, his soft but strong, and knew she was on the edge of a precipice. This is dangerous, she whispered. I know. It could ruin everything. I know. Then why don't we stop? Enzo smiled, and there was something wild in that smile, something that contrasted completely with the controlled man she knew. Because maybe it's too late to stop. And when he raised her hand to his lips, gently kissing her knuckles, Jackie knew he was right. It was too late to stop anything that was happening between them. Night! On the third day, the resort hosted its famous tropical night, a beachside party with live music, exotic drinks, and dancing until dawn. Jackie had spent the entire day debating whether she should attend. The memory of Enzo's hand on hers, their intertwined fingers, and his intense gaze had troubled her since the previous night. Connie had called in the morning, excited about the photos Jackie had sent. Girl, you look radiant. Enjoy every second. Life's too short not to dance when we get the chance. It was thinking about the housekeeper's words that Jackie chose a red dress from the closet, low-cut without being vulgar, that accentuated her waist and made her skin glow. She let her hair down for the first time in years, letting it fall in natural waves over her shoulders. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a stranger, a confident, sensual, free woman. The party was in full swing when she went down to the beach. Torches illuminated the white sand. Couples danced barefoot, and the air smelled of salt and jasmine. For the first time since arriving, Jackie allowed herself to completely relax. May I offer a drink to the most beautiful lady at the party? She turned and found a dark-haired man, about 35 years old, charming smile and a slight southern drawl. He introduced himself as Eduardo, a software engineer on vacation from Atlanta. I'm Jackie, she replied, accepting the margarita he offered. Jackie, he repeated, as if tasting the sound. I can't place your accent. Where are you from? Kentucky. Ah, from Kentucky. That explains the grace and natural beauty. Jackie laughed, feeling light for the first time in weeks. Eduardo was funny, intelligent, and didn't ask difficult questions about her life. When the band started playing a country song, he held out his hand. Dance with me? She hesitated for only a second before accepting. On the warm sand, in the arms of a charming stranger, Jackie allowed herself to be just a woman having fun. They laughed, talked, danced until her feet hurt. Eduardo made her feel normal, as if she belonged in that world of carefree people. "Do you have a boyfriend?" he asked during a slower song, pulling her closer to his chest. "It's complicated," she answered honestly. "Complicated how?" Before she could answer, a deep voice cut through the music behind them. "Jackie!" She turned and found Enzo standing on the sand, wearing a dark suit completely out of place at the casual party. His golden eyes gleamed with something wild, dangerous. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. "Mr. Castellani," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice came out shaky. Eduardo looked between the two, clearly sensing the tension. "Friend of yours?" he asked softly. "My boss," Jackie whispered back. "We need to talk," said Enzo, completely ignoring Eduardo. "I'm having fun right now," she replied, surprising herself with her firmness. "Can it wait?" Enzo's eyes darkened. "No." Eduardo stepped forward, instinctively protective. "Look here, buddy, the lady said she's busy, and I said we need to talk now." Enzo approached, and there was something animal in his movements, like a predator marking territory. Jackie felt the air heat up between the two men. "Eduardo, thank you for a wonderful night, but I think I better go." "Are you sure?" Eduardo looked at Enzo suspiciously. "If you need anything, I'm in bungalow 17. As Eduardo walked away, Enzo grabbed Jackie's arm with more force than necessary. "Let's go. Let go of me," she hissed. "You're hurting me." He released her immediately, but continued walking towards the path that led to the bungalows. Jackie followed him, part of her furious, part of her curious about what had provoked that reaction. They stopped in an isolated area between two paths, illuminated only by the moonlight. Enzo turned to her, and the expression on his face made her step back. "What the hell was that?" he exploded. Jackie blinked, shocked by the profanity. "What are you talking about?" "Dancing with that jerk, letting him touch you, smiling at him like..." "Like what, Enzo?" She interrupted, her own anger rising. "Like I was a normal woman having fun at a party?" You're not a normal woman. You're..." He stopped, running his hands through his hair. "I'm what? Your property? Your maid who doesn't have the right to have fun? You're mine!" The words came out with an intensity that shocked both of them. The silence that followed was deafening. Jackie stared at him, seeing for the first time the man behind the mask of control. A man consumed by jealousy, by possessiveness, by something deeper and scarier. "Yours?" she whispered. "I'm not anyone's property." Enzo approached, and she could see the conflict in his eyes. "I know, damn it, I know that. But when I saw you in his arms, laughing, being touched by another man..." He closed his eyes, as if the memory caused physical pain. "I felt like my heart was being ripped out. Enzo, I've been watching you for months," he confessed, the words coming out in a torrent. "I make up excuses to work from home just to see you walk through the hallways. I memorize your routine, your smile, the way you hum softly while you work. And I couldn't understand why." Jackie felt the world tilt. "And do you understand now? I'm in love with you." The confession came out raw, desperate. "Lost completely, irrevocably in love. And when I saw you with him, I realized that I'd rather die than see you in another man's arms." The tears she had held back for days finally spilled over. "You can't say that." "Why not?" "It's the truth. Because you're Enzo Castellani. Millionaire, owner of an empire, the man who can have any woman he wants." She sobbed. "And I'm the maid you brought here out of pity." "Pity?" He laughed bitterly. "You think it was pity? I brought you here because I couldn't stand pretending you were just another employee anymore. Because I needed to see you out of that uniform, away from that house, being yourself." He held her face in his hands. "I brought you here because I'm desperately in love and wanted a chance to show you who you really are. And who am I? The most extraordinary woman I've ever met. The woman who makes me want to be a better man. The woman I would lose everything for without a second thought." Before she could answer, Enzo kissed her. It wasn't gentle or hesitant. It was a kiss charged with months of repressed desire, of jealousy, of desperate love. Jackie melted against him, her own defenses crumbling completely. When they broke apart, both were breathless. "This will ruin everything," she whispered against his lips. "It already has," he replied. "The moment I saw you at that party, laughing in another man's arms, my world fell apart. There's no turning back now, Jackie, for either of us." And as he kissed her again, more slowly this time, as if he wanted to memorize every second, they both knew they had crossed a line from which they could not return. The consequences would come: scandal, judgments, the destruction of everything they knew. But in that moment, under the full moon of the Hamptons, none of that mattered. What mattered was that Enzo Castellani had confessed that he loved her, and Jackie Reynolds, for the first time in her life, had allowed herself to believe that she deserved to be loved by someone like him. The remaining 3 days in the Hamptons passed like a fever dream. Enzo cancelled all business meetings, something he had never done in 20 years of his career. They walked on the beach at dawn, dined in romantic restaurants, talked about books, dreams, and fears until late at night. Jackie discovered an Enzo that no one knew: vulnerable, funny, capable of laughing at himself. He told her about the loneliness of growing up as the only child of workaholic parents, about how he had built an empire to prove his worth, and had ended up losing himself in the process. She talked about the stories she wrote in secret, kept in an old notebook, about the dream of one day publishing her stories. "Show them to me," he asked on the last night, lying on the hammock on her bungalow's veranda. "They're just scribbles," she protested, but ended up fetching the notebook she always carried in her bag. Enzo read in silence for almost an hour, turning the pages with reverent care. "Jackie," he said finally, "this is extraordinary. You have real talent. Don't exaggerate. I'm serious. These stories, they have soul, real emotion. You need to publish this. With what money? With what time?" "With me," he said simply. "I can help you. We can find a publisher, invest in your career." Enzo, no. Jackie closed the notebook. "I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because then I would become your kept woman. And that would kill anything real between us." It was their first fight, tense and painful. Enzo couldn't understand why she rejected help that he would gladly give. Jackie couldn't explain that accepting would mean losing her dignity, her independence. They made peace the next morning on the plane back to Manhattan, but something had changed. Reality was beginning to encroach on the paradise they had created. Back at the mansion, they tried to maintain appearances. Jackie returned to the gray uniform, the tied-back hair, the usual routine. Enzo resumed the meetings, the business trips, the formal posture. But the glances they exchanged in the hallways were charged with electricity. The hands that touched briefly when she served coffee contained silent promises. They met in secret, in the study after hours, in the garden during the early hours of the morning, in isolated corners of the house where no one could see them. Each kiss was stolen, each word whispered with the fear of being discovered. "This is killing me," Enzo confessed one of those nights, holding her against the pantry wall. "Having to pretend that you're just my employee when all I want is to shout to the world that I love you." "You know we can't," Jackie whispered back. "Not yet. I need to think about how to tell my family, how to deal with the consequences." "What consequences?" "I'll protect you." "You can't protect me from everything, Enzo, not from everyone." As if her words were prophetic, the following week everything began to fall apart. First was Connie. The elderly housekeeper who had known Enzo since childhood noticed the subtle changes, how he asked about Jackie, how she smiled more, how both seemed anxious when the other was around. "Girl," she called Jackie to the kitchen one morning, "I need to talk to you." "About the boss?" Jackie's heart skipped a beat. "What about Mr. Castellani?" "You know what about?" Connie's experienced eyes studied her. "The question is, have you thought about the consequences?" Jackie tried to deny it, but the housekeeper's maternal expression disarmed her. "Connie, I've seen you two. The way he looks at you, how you get nervous around him." "I'm not blind, child," the woman sighed. "And I'm not the only one who's noticed." "What do you mean?" "Marcia, the new cleaning lady, has been asking questions, making comments about how you're getting along well with the boss, about the trip to the Hamptons. She has a venomous tongue and envy in her heart." A chill ran down Jackie's spine. Has she talked to anyone? Not yet, but she will. People like that always do. That afternoon, as if the universe were conspiring against them, Isabella Castellani arrived unexpectedly at the mansion. Enzo's younger sister, an influential socialite and notorious gossip, showed up for a surprise visit that obviously had ulterior motives. Jackie knew her only by sight. A woman in her 40s, platinum blonde, always impeccably dressed and with an air of superiority that made all the employees walk on eggshells. "Enzo!" she shouted, entering the study without knocking. "I missed my workaholic brother so much." Enzo, who was reviewing contracts, looked up annoyed. "Isabella, what an unexpected pleasure. I came to meet your new little maid," she said, her eyes gleaming maliciously. "The one you took to the Hamptons. What's her name again, Jackie?" Enzo's blood ran cold. "How did you know about that?" "Oh, my dear brother." Isabella threw herself onto the leather armchair, crossing her legs elegantly. "Nothing happens in your empire without me knowing, especially when it involves you doing charity with pretty employees. It's none of your business." "Of course it is. You're a Castellani. Your behavior reflects on the family, on the business, on our reputation." She leaned forward, her voice gaining venom. "Just imagine if the press found out that the tycoon Enzo Castellani is playing around with a Pygmalion with the maid. Or watch your mouth, Isabella. Or what? You'll fire me?" She laughed. "Listen up, little brother. There are already rumors circulating in our circles. People are talking about you taking an employee to the resort, about how you've been acting different lately. It's only a matter of time before someone connects the dots." Enzo stood up, his hands trembling with rage. "And you came here to what? Blackmail me?" "I came to warn you. As a sister who loves you," her voice dripped with false concern. "End this now before it turns into a scandal. And pay her to keep quiet, give her a hefty severance and send her away. Simple. Never. Then prepare for the consequences." Isabella stood up, smoothing her skirt. "Because if I found out, others will too. And not everyone will be as discreet as I am." That night, Enzo told Jackie everything. She received the news in silence, her face growing paler and paler. "She's right," Jackie said finally. "This will turn into a scandal. So what? To hell with everyone." "You don't understand." Jackie moved away from him. "When this blows up, and it will blow up, I'm the one who will suffer the most. I'll be the gold digger, the opportunist who seduced the millionaire boss. You'll just be another rich man who got involved with the maid. That's not true. That's how the world will see it." Tears ran down her face. "And my family? My sick mom, my brother in school? They'll be exposed, humiliated. People will say they benefited from my prostitution." "Jackie, don't. Maybe we should stop before it's too late." "It's been too late since the first time I kissed you." Enzo pulled her into his arms. "I'm not giving up on you. I won't let them separate us." But even as he kissed her, trying to chase away her fears with his passion, they both knew that the forces against them were mobilizing. Isabella wasn't the kind of woman who made empty threats. If she had found out, others would too. And when that happened, their love would be tested in ways they couldn't even imagine. The next morning, Marcia, the envious cleaning lady, made an anonymous call to a gossip columnist known for destroying reputations. The bomb was ready to explode. The bomb exploded on a Tuesday morning. Jackie was arranging the flowers in the living room when Connie came running in, her gloved hand trembling with her cell phone. "Oh my God, girl! Oh my God in heaven! What is it, Connie?" The housekeeper couldn't speak. She just handed over the phone, where the screen showed the website of a famous gossip columnist. The headline in bold letters made Jackie's world collapse. "Tycoon Enzo Castellani having affair with housekeeper. Luxury trip was a gift for lover." The main photo showed the two of them leaving a restaurant in the Hamptons, their hands intertwined, their faces close. Someone had photographed them without them noticing. Other photos followed. Enzo kissing her forehead on the beach, her laughing in his arms during a sunset, both of them entering her bungalow late at night. Jackie read the article with growing horror. Every word was venomous. every paragraph, a stab in the back. Sources close to the Castellani family confirm that the 40-year-old billionaire is having an intimate relationship with Jackie Reynolds, 28, a housekeeper at his mansion. The Hampton Cinderella, as she is already being called on social media, was gifted a trip to the family's luxury resort, where the couple didn't bother to hide their forbidden romance. Neighbors report that the young woman, from a humble background in Kentucky, has always been very close to the boss. She thought she was special, reveals an employee who asked for anonymity. I always knew there was something strange about that trip. A maid doesn't get a $50,000 gift from the boss for nothing. The cell phone slipped from Jackie's hands, shattering on the marble floor. She couldn't breathe. The walls of the mansion seemed to close in around her. "Jackie!" Enzo burst into the room like a hurricane, still in his pajamas, his hair disheveled. "I know. My advisors woke me up. We're going to sue them all. We're going to... How did they get the photos?" She asked, her voice almost inaudible. "I don't know. It must have been a paparazzi or someone sold us out." The realization hit her like a punch. "Someone from inside your company or this house sold us out." Enzo approached, trying to touch her, but she flinched away. "That doesn't matter now. What matters is how we're going to deal with this. How are we going to deal?" Jackie laughed, a hysterical sound. "Enzo, my life is over. My reputation, my family's all destroyed." As if summoned by her words, calls began to bombard the mansion's landline. Connie answered and hung up quickly, but the expressions on her face grew darker and darker. "That was your mom," she said finally. "Reporters went to her house in Kentucky. They're taking pictures, asking questions to the neighbors. Your brother is being harassed at school." Jackie doubled over, as if she had been punched in the stomach. "My sick mom, my brother. I'll protect your family," Enzo said desperately. "I'll send security, You don't understand," she exploded. "You can't protect anyone. This is bigger than you, bigger than your money. They've turned our story into cheap pornography." Her cell phone, which had been replaced by one of Enzo's assistants, wouldn't stop ringing. Cruel messages flooded her social media. Strangers had discovered her address, her relatives, her past. Everything was being dissected and ridiculed publicly. "Gold-digging Maid traps Millionaire," she read one of the headlines that appeared during the morning. From scrubbing floors to silk sheets, the story of the new Cinderella. At 2 in the afternoon, Isabella arrived at the mansion with a triumphant expression barely disguised as concern. "Enzo, what a terrible situation. The press is going crazy." "It was you," Enzo accused. "You leaked the information. How can you think that of me?" Isabella feigned indignation. "I warned you this was going to be a shit show. Now look at the situation. The company's stock is down 3% just today. Investors are nervous. The board is demanding an emergency meeting. To hell with the stock. And your reputation. And the family name?" Isabella looked at Jackie with disdain. "Look, honey, nothing personal, but you need to understand that this can't continue. One way or another." "Get out of my house," Enzo snarled. "It's not just my opinion, brother. Dad is coming from Miami. Aunt Helena canceled her trip to Europe. The company's board has scheduled a meeting for tomorrow." Isabella turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "Oh, and Jackie, I suggest you get a lawyer. Some of the articles are insinuating some pretty nasty things about your methods of seduction." When Isabella left, the silence in the room was deafening. Jackie looked at Enzo and saw for the first time the weight of reality in his eyes. He wasn't just a man in love. He was the CEO of an empire, heir to a dynasty, responsible for thousands of jobs. "You're gonna have to choose," she said calmly. "I've already chosen. I choose you, even if it destroys everything you've built. Even if your companies go bankrupt, your family disowns you, your employees lose their jobs." Enzo hesitated for a fraction of a second, enough time for Jackie to see the truth in his eyes. He loved her, but he wasn't prepared to lose everything for her. "Jackie, I understand," she interrupted, and for the first time her voice was firm. "You have responsibilities greater than your feelings." "It's not that. I just need time to figure out..." Figure out how. By hiding me until the dust settles? By turning me into the secret mistress you visit on the sly? We'll find a way out. The way out is simple, Enzo. Jackie took off the uniform and handed it to him. I leave your life. You go back to your world, I go back to mine. No! He refused the uniform. I won't accept that. I love you, and I love you too. Tears finally streamed down her face. But sometimes love isn't enough. At that moment, one of the mansion's security guards entered hastily. Mr. Castellani, there's a crowd of reporters at the gate. They're trying to jump the fence. Jackie looked out the window and saw the cameras, the flashes, the media circus that her life had become. I can't leave here without being devoured by the vultures. I'll arrange an exit through the back, and then what? They'll chase me forever. Every place I go, every job I try to get, there will always be someone remembering that I'm the maid who seduced the millionaire. Enzo pulled her into his arms, desperate. We'll run away then. We'll go far away, start a new life. And your company, your responsibilities, your hundreds of employees? Jackie pulled away delicately. You can't abandon everything, Enzo. And I can't let you do that because of me. Then what do you suggest? That you make a statement to the press? Say it was a misunderstanding, that the trip was a professional award, that there was never anything between us. Her voice broke. And I disappear from your life forever. Never. I'll never deny what I feel for you. Then we're two fools who fell in love against all the rules of the world. That night, while Enzo desperately tried to find a solution with his lawyers and advisors, Jackie made her choice. She left a letter on the desk in the study and left through the back of the mansion, taking advantage of the security shift change. In the letter, she wrote only, "Some loves are too big for the small worlds we inhabit. I love you enough to set you free. Don't look for me, Jackie." When Enzo found the letter the next morning, Jackie was already gone, far away. And for the first time in his adult life, the tycoon who could buy anything in the world found himself powerless in the face of the only thing that really mattered. She had disappeared, taking with her the only real light he had ever known. 3 months had passed since Jackie had disappeared from Enzo's life. She had returned to Kentucky, to the small town where she had grown up, but quickly discovered that there was no possible refuge. The reporters had found her in a few days, turning the family's simple house into a media circus. Her mother, Marlene, had worsened with the stress. Her brother, John, had been suspended from school after fighting with classmates who called him the brother of the millionaire's whore. The small town that had once welcomed her now whispered behind her back. It was Connie who saved her. The housekeeper called one night, her voice heavy with concern. "Girl, you need to get out of there. They won't leave you alone." "Where am I going, Connie? There's no place in the world where they won't find me." "Yes, there is. My niece Teresa has a bed and breakfast in upstate New York. Small place, no decent internet, no journalists. You can hide there until things cool down." Jackie accepted, but not to hide forever. She accepted to have time to think, to plan, to discover the truth about who had really destroyed her life. The Hydrangea Inn was in a small town of 3,000 inhabitants in rural New York. Teresa, a 50-year-old woman with a maternal manner, welcomed her without asking questions. "Connie told me your situation, honey. Here you're just Jacques, the girl who came to help at the inn. During the day, Jackie worked at the front desk, cleaned rooms, helped in the kitchen. But in the early hours of the morning, when the inn was silent, she researched. She had managed to get an old laptop and a slow internet connection. She began to systematically investigate everything that had happened. First, she discovered that the photos in the Hamptons had been taken by a professional paparazzi, not by some casual guest. Someone had hired a photographer to follow them specifically. This was not chance or journalistic luck. It was a planned operation. Second, analyzing the metadata of the published photos, knowledge she had acquired in her English literature course, she discovered that they were taken at different times of the week, always at the most intimate moments. Whoever hired the photographer knew their routine in detail. Third, And most importantly, the leak to the columnist happened exactly 1 day before the quarterly meeting of the Castellani Holdings Board, where important decisions about succession would be discussed. Very convenient, she muttered to herself one night, looking at the dates on the calendar. That's when she began to investigate who else would benefit from the destruction of Enzo's reputation. And she discovered something disturbing. Roberto Mendoza, a longtime business rival and interested in acquiring the hotel chain, had made an aggressive buyout offer exactly 1 week after the scandal, when the stock plummeted. But there was still a missing piece in the puzzle. How did Mendoza know the intimate details of the relationship? How did he know when and where to hire the photographer? The answer came from an unexpected source. Connie called one night, whispering on the phone, "Jackie, I need to tell you something. I can't keep it a secret anymore." "What is it, Connie?" "Remember Marcia, that envious cleaning lady? She disappeared from the mansion 2 days after the scandal. No one knows where she went, and I found out by chance today. She's working for the Mendoza family, earning 3 times more than here, apartment paid for, car. A fortune for a cleaning lady." Jackie felt her blood run cold. "Connie, are you sure?" "I saw it with my own eyes. She was leaving the Mendoza mansion, all dolled up, driving a new car. When she saw me, she turned as white as a sheet and ran away. Marcia was spying for Mendoza all along," Jackie whispered. "She knew our routine, our meetings, everything. There's more, girl. I found out she also had contact with Miss Isabella. I saw messages on the old cell phone she forgot in the locker room." The revelation hit Jackie like a lightning bolt. Isabella and Mendoza working together to bring down Enzo, the sister who wanted control of the family business, the rival who wanted to buy it for a fraction of the value, and Marcia as the perfect informant, driven by envy and greed. "Connie, can you get me copies of those messages?" "I already did. I photographed everything. I'm sending it through WhatsApp now." When the images arrived, Jackie had to hold herself back from screaming. Clear messages between Marcia and a number that, after investigating, belonged to Isabella's assistant. Coordination of schedules, instructions on when to photograph, details about the trip to the Hamptons that only someone inside the mansion could know. But the message that shocked her the most read, "Operation worked perfectly. He's destroyed, can't work properly. Company vulnerable for takeover. Bonus as agreed will be deposited." Enzo had been betrayed by his own sister. Jackie spent the next 3 days collecting more evidence. She discovered suspicious financial transactions between Mendoza's accounts and an offshore account linked to Isabella. She found leaked emails, obtained through a hacker Teresa knew. The countryside has everything. Honey, that showed the complete plan. Destroy Enzo emotionally, shake the company, force a sale at a low price. But more than that, she discovered that Enzo hadn't been passive. Through scattered articles in the financial press, she saw that he was fighting desperately to save the company. He had sold personal properties, cancelled projects, cut costs drastically. And according to a small article in a local newspaper, he was discreetly funding a foundation for families of domestic employees in vulnerable situations. "He still loves me," she murmured, looking at the computer screen, "even after everything." It was Teresa who found her crying on the porch the next morning. "What's wrong, honey?" "I found out who betrayed me, and I found out that the man I love is paying the price for my cowardice. Cowardice. I ran away when I should have fought. I let them win without throwing a single punch." Jackie wiped away her tears and looked at Teresa. "I need to go back. Are you sure?" "I have proof of everything. I know who did this to us and why. But more importantly," she took a deep breath, "I've learned something about myself in these months." "What?" "That I'm not the humble maid who accepts anything in silence. That I wasn't born to hide in the background. That if someone I love is suffering because of me, I fight." Teresa smiled. "And now?" Jackie looked at the laptop, where she had organized all the evidence into a detailed presentation. Then she looked in the mirror, where she saw a woman different from the one who had fled 3 months ago. Thinner, stronger, with fire in her eyes. "Now I'm going back to Manhattan. And this time, I'm not running away. That afternoon, she called an investigative journalist she had found during her research, someone known for exposing corporate corruption schemes. I have a story for you. A story that will bring down some very powerful people. What's it about? Corporate conspiracy, blackmail, destruction of reputations. And I have all the evidence. 2 weeks later, Jackie was on the plane back to Manhattan. She wasn't going as the humiliated maid who had fled. She was going as a woman at war, armed with the truth and willing to fight for the man she loved. The final confrontation was near, and this time she wouldn't back down. The report came out on a Tuesday morning, occupying the entire cover of the country's largest financial newspaper. Castellani scandal, family and industrial conspiracy revealed in exclusive investigation. Jackie had worked for 3 weeks with investigative journalist Daniel Moreira, organizing every piece of evidence, every document, every connection between Isabella, Mendoza, and Marcia. The article was devastating. Audios of conversations between the sister and the rival, bank statements showing payments to the domestic spy, emails detailing the plan of destruction, photos of the photographer being paid by Isabella's assistant. But the coup de grace was the documents that showed how Mendoza planned to dismantle Castellani Holdings after the purchase, laying off thousands of employees and selling the assets to Chinese investors. Isabella would receive a position as a consultant in the new structure with $1 million salary. Enzo read the article in his office, surrounded by the lawyers. He had called for an emergency meeting about the company's crisis. As he read, his face grew paler. When he finished, he was silent for long minutes. Mr. Castellani, the most experienced lawyer, tried. "My sister," he said, his voice almost inaudible. "My own sister betrayed me. Destroyed Jackie, destroyed the company, destroyed everything. For money." The phone didn't stop ringing all morning. Journalists wanting interviews, investors asking for explanations, board members demanding an emergency meeting. But Enzo could only think of one thing. Jackie had fought for him, even after everything that had happened. She had risked her safety to expose the truth, and he didn't even know where she was. Isabella arrived at Enzo's office 2 hours after the article was published, accompanied by 2 lawyers. She was pale, but still trying to maintain her arrogant posture. "Enzo, we need to talk. This article is a smear campaign." "Shut up." Enzo's voice was icy. "Just shut up. You can't talk to me like that. I'm your sister." "A sister doesn't do what you did." Enzo stood up, and there was something predatory in his movements. "A sister doesn't destroy the life of an innocent person for greed. That maid wasn't innocent. She seduced you, manipulated you. She loved me." Enzo exploded. "Loved me for real without wanting anything in return. Something you never understood, that no one in this damn family ever understood." Isabella recoiled, frightened by the intensity of his anger. "Enzo, I did this for you, to protect the company. To steal the company, you mean? To destroy me and take everything." He threw the documents on the table. "It's all here, Isabella. Every transfer, every message, every lie. You sold your own family for 30 pieces of silver. I can explain. The only explanation I want is your resignation from all positions in the company, immediately." "You can't fire me. I have rights. I'm a shareholder." "Heiress, not after this." Enzo pressed the intercom. "Call security. Ms. Isabella Castellani is being escorted out of the building. She is no longer authorized to enter any company property." While Isabella was being dragged away, screaming, protesting, and threatening lawsuits, Enzo was already dialing his private investigators. "I want to know where Jackie Reynolds is, now." Jackie was at the simple hotel where she was staying upon arriving in Manhattan when Daniel Moreira called. "The bomb went off, Jackie. Everyone is talking about the article. Isabella Castellani has been fired from the company. Mendoza cancelled the buyout offer, and people are calling for an investigation by the district attorney. And Enzo? Not trying to find you. His investigators have already called here 3 times. Jackie took a deep breath. "Daniel, I need one more favor. Name it. Can you organize a press conference? I want to speak publicly." "Are you sure? The press can be wild. I'm sure. It's time to tell my side of the story. The press conference was scheduled for the next day in the auditorium of a hotel in downtown Manhattan. Jackie spent the night awake, writing and rewriting her speech. When she arrived at the location, she found a sea of cameras, flashes, and curious faces. She wore a simple navy blue suit, her hair pulled back in an elegant bun. She wasn't trying to hide her humble origins, but she wasn't diminishing herself either. She was there as a woman who had discovered her own strength. "Good morning," she began, her voice firm despite her nerves. "My name is Jackie Reynolds. In recent months, I've been portrayed by the press as a gold digger, an opportunist who seduced her millionaire boss. I'm here to tell you the truth. The silence in the auditorium was absolute. I fell in love with Enzo Castellani, and he fell in love with me. It wasn't calculation, it wasn't interest, it wasn't manipulation. It was love. Pure, simple, true." Her voice gained strength. "But powerful people decided that our love was dangerous. Dangerous to their plans for power and money." She told everything: Isabella's conspiracy, Mendoza's plan, Marcia's betrayal. She showed documents, played audios, dismantled every lie that had been spread about her. I ran away because I believed that my love for Enzo would only bring him destruction. But I've learned something important in these months. Running away from the truth doesn't protect anyone. It only allows the liars to win. A journalist raised his hand. "Jackie, what do you want from Mr. Castellani now?" She took a deep breath. "Nothing. I don't want anything. I've already had the privilege of being loved by an extraordinary man. That's more than many people have in their entire lives. But do you still love him?" The tears she had held back finally flowed. "I do. I'll love him for the rest of my life. But my love for him can't depend on him being with me. Sometimes loving someone means wishing them happiness, even if it's away from us." It was then that the doors of the auditorium opened. Enzo entered, still in his meeting suit, his hair disheveled as if he had been running. His eyes met hers through the sea of people, and the world stopped. "Excuse the interruption," he said, without taking his eyes off Jackie. "But I need to talk to this woman." Murmurs spread through the auditorium. Cameras turned to him. Enzo ignored everything, walking determinedly to the stage. "Jackie," he said, now standing at the microphone, "you said you loved me." "Enzo, you shouldn't be here." "You said you love me," he repeated louder. "And I need everyone in this room to know that I love you too. Madly, desperately, eternally." The auditorium exploded in murmurs. Jackie looked at him, incredulous. "You said that sometimes loving someone means wishing them happiness away from us," Enzo continued. "But what if that person's happiness is exactly being with you? What if these 3 months without you have been hell on earth? What if I've discovered that I'd rather be poor by your side than rich without you? Enzo, marry me." The silence was absolute. Jackie looked at him, then at the hundreds of people watching them, then back at him. "You're proposing to me in front of the entire national press?" "I am." He smiled, and in that smile was all the vulnerability and all the love in the world. "Because I want there to be no doubt in anyone's mind that Jackie Reynolds is the woman I've chosen, that I love, that I respect. I want them to know that having you by my side is the greatest honor of my life." Jackie stepped down from the stage and stopped in front of him. "What if they say I'm a gold digger? What if they say you're crazy?" "Then they'll say it, and we'll be happy despite them." Enzo took her hands. "Jackie, you taught me that there's a difference between being alive and living. Without you, I only exist. With you, I live." "Enzo Castellani," she said, smiling through her tears. "You're impossible. Is that a yes?" Jackie looked around, at the cameras, at the journalists, at the world that would judge them. Then she looked at the man in front of her, the man who had chosen love over social approval, who had chosen her over security. "It's a yes." When he kissed her, the auditorium exploded in applause. Flashes fired, cameras recorded. But for Jackie and Enzo, only that moment existed, the moment in which 2 different worlds merged into one, proving that true love knows no social classes, doesn't bow to prejudice, and always finds a way. Cut to 6 months later. The wedding was on the beach in the Hamptons, at the same resort where it all began. Jackie wore a simple white lace dress, Enzo a light suit without a tie. The ceremony was small, only close family and true friends. Connie was the maid of honor, radiant in a blue dress. Jackie's mother, Marlene, finally recovered from her illness, cried throughout her son-in-law's speech. John, her brother, now in his first year of engineering with a full scholarship obtained through a foundation that Enzo had created discreetly, was the page boy. "Who would have thought," Connie murmured to Teresa during the party, "that our girl would become the mistress of the mansion?" "She always was the mistress," Teresa replied wisely. "She just needed to discover it." Enzo and Jackie had their first dance as husband and wife on the sand, under the stars, with the sound of the waves replacing any orchestra. "Regretting it?" he asked, turning her slowly. "Regretting what?" "Regretting marrying an impossible man who proposed to you in front of 200 journalists. Jackie laughed, and the sound was pure happiness. "Never, but I have a confession to make. Tell me. I always knew you were watching me at the mansion." Enzo stopped dancing. "You knew? A woman feels when she's being watched, especially by a handsome man." She smiled mischievously. "I was just pretending I didn't know." "You were!" Enzo feigned indignation. "That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Mr. Castellani, but with you, it's much more interesting." He kissed her again under the stars, and Jackie knew that no matter what challenges life brought, they would face them together. Because they had learned the most important lesson of all, that love, true love, is always worth fighting for. And that sometimes the most unexpected love stories are the ones that change the world. The end, deliberately driving me crazy. Maybe just a little bit. Enzo pulled her closer, whispering in her ear, "Mrs. Castellani, you're a dangerous woman. And you, Mr. Castellani, haven't seen anything yet." They laughed together, danced until dawn, and when the sun rose on the horizon, they were sitting on the sand, her leaning against his chest, watching the world wake up. "What are we going to do now?" Jackie asked. "Now we're going to live," Enzo replied. "We're going to run the company together. You with your sensitivity and intelligence, me with my experience. We're going to create a foundation to help families like yours. We're going to have children who will grow up knowing that love knows no boundaries. And are we going to write books together? You write, I publish. Perfect partnership." Jackie turned in his arms, studying the face she loved. "You know what else makes me happy? Tell me." "It's that our story doesn't end with, they lived happily ever after. It ends with, and then they started really living." Enzo kissed her, long and softly, while the golden sun of the Hamptons bathed the couple who had proven to the world that true love doesn't bow to social conventions, isn't intimidated by scandals, and always finds a way. In the Manhattan mansion, which was now their home, Connie prepared breakfast humming softly. Jackie's gray uniform was stored in the closet, not out of shame, but as a reminder of a journey that began with a fall on the stairs and ended with a woman discovering that she deserved to be loved exactly as she was. And so in the city that never sleeps, in a country where social differences still weigh like mountains, two hearts proved that there is a force greater than all prejudices. The courage to love without measuring consequences, the bravery to fight for one's own happiness, and the certainty that in the end, we are all equal before the immensity of true love.